Hi, welcome back guys, this is your friend Greedy Fanfics with another fanfiction. This is the second part of What If Deku Become a Viridian Knight. All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The teachers gathered along with Detective Tsukachi and Minato. After Mordred scanned through Izuku's memories, they found out the things they needed to know. This is all very concerning, Nizu spoke. I'll say, a villain comparable to All Might. But didn't it seem like Viridian stole his quirk, Mike said. But he flew away, Midnight interjected. So far, the only thing we know is that he's strong and he's called Percival, Tsukachi spoke. I have something to add. Everyone turned towards Mordred. Please proceed. Tsukachi and Minato took out a notepad. Percival's quirk allows him to copy the most powerful and most useful quirk, so the quirk he's using has an exact copy somewhere else. After Mord's explanation, everyone began to wonder who would have such a quirk. But before Nizu can speak, he can't copy Viridian's or All for One, since the quirk is considered weak without the stolen quirks. I see, so this Percival copied someone else. Nizu began typing on his computer. Let's discuss about my student first. Aizawa changed the topic. Izuku Midoriya aka Viridian, quirk sphere swipe. Pretty much a stronger All for One, Mordred spoke. Percival calls him Lancelot for some reason, but the kid doesn't know why. Cool name though, Mike commented. You're telling me my student has a target on his back? Aizawa asked. I'm not sure either. All I know is Percival considers him a threat, and if he does it means they're strong. Interesting, Midnight purred. You don't need to be worried about the kid, Minato assured. He can take care of himself. That's the concerning part. Izuku expected to come home to an empty house, since he definitely lived alone. He could understand if it was Hana or Hanami, because they had extra keys. They were allowed to stay, even if they were given their own house. What he didn't expect was a random lady sitting in his favorite spot on the couch, staring at him. Just staring at him, for probably 5 minutes by now. Not knowing what to do, Izuku just walked to the kitchen to grab a cup of coffee. You're shorter than I expected, the woman spoke. Oh, a tick mark appeared on Izuku's head. I'm Zenobia, someone you should know. Too bad cause I got no idea who you are, Izuku began loudly slurping his coffee. I see, a tick mark appeared on her head. Then I'll make sure you don't forget me. Zenobia suddenly pushed him down. Izuku was about to struggle, but his body suddenly felt hot. He felt too weak to move, and the expression on her face reminded her too much of Yaoyorozu. Momo suddenly sat up from her bed. She felt the urge to hunt someone down, so she made a mental reminder to investigate tomorrow for more potential harlots. Class 1A was silent under Aizawa's glare. They wanted to interrogate Izuku about being Viridian, and Aizawa found that very annoying. All of you need to make an important decision today. The class became tensed. You all are going to be choosing hero names, and Midnight will be assisting you. Midnight slammed the door open. I forgot my line. Midnight exclaimed. Whatever. Aizawa got inside his sleeping bag. The class were handed some whiteboards and began choosing a hero name. Aoyama presented a sentence, while Mina's were rejected. After Tsu everything went smoothly, except for Bakuga's stupid name. I'll be the turbo hero, Turbonium. In honor of my brother Ingenium, Ida exclaimed. How is he doing? Midnight asked. He's doing just fine, he just got back to hero work today. Excellent. Izuku was shivering, he could feel Yaoyorozu's gaze on him. Despite her not looking directly at him, he could still feel it. After the traumatizing night with Zenobia, he couldn't lower his guard against women. When it was his turn to present a name, he actually felt her pinch his butt. The Viridian hero, Lancelot. Alpha patrolled through the shadows, as the first nigh of his master. He needed to prove his worth. Stopping a mugging in an alley and taking down villain trying to rob a bank, Alpha was doing well. But he could feel the uneasiness of his master through their connection. He knew his master was strong, he would definitely prevail. Izuku stared at the amount offers he got. 5,000 on him alone, while Todoroki followed with over 4,000. For some reason, Todoroki was smiling. Izuku felt weird about it, but he didn't know why. Izuku raised his hand. "No, you're not allowed to intern with yourself," Aizawa spoke. Izuku slowly lowered his hand, while some of his classmates chuckled. Izuku settled for the someone he always wanted to meet. He gave Aizawa his form and left the class before anyone could interrogate him. He stopped when he saw Todoroki. He was smiling, and Izuku felt the urge to follow him. After a minute of following Todoroki, he saw him enter the support workshop. Peeking through the large metal door, he saw Todoroki happily chatting with Hana. No fucking way, Izuku thought. Before he could enter the workshop, he was pulled away. Izuku felt dread when he saw that it was Yaoyorozu. "We need to have a little talk," Yaoyorozu purred. Izuku gulped as Yaoyorozu dragged him inside a supply closet. "Hoping he lives to see another day." Itsuka was walking with Setsuna and Yui towards the support workshop to update their hero costume. Setsuna rushed inside the moment she saw the giant metal door. Yui followed right after her. Itsuka sighed as they left her behind. "Oh yes." Itsuka froze. The voice sounded familiar, and it was coming from the supply closet. It was muffled and she just barely heard it. Slowly approaching the closet, she tried to listen again. This was the second time something like this happened to her, and she was definitely curious. She can hear faint sounds of something clapping, then it suddenly stopped. Itsuka felt her instincts screaming at her to run, but the door opened and hand grabbed her wrist. "Where do you think you're going?" Itsuka felt fear as Yaoyorozu looked at her with dazed eyes. I need to go to the support department," Itsuka tried to explain. Yaoyorozu licked her lips. Itsuka was pulled inside and Yaoyorozu suddenly forced her down on her knees. Itsuka felt something rip through her underwear, and wave of pleasure hit her body. "Don't worry, I can make you some new underwear," Yaoyorozu whispered into her ears as she covered the door with noise cancellers. Itsuka whimpered but began pleasuring herself with whoever was under her. Nobody heard her moans either. Midnight was sure something was up when Nizu called her into her office. Upon entering, Nizu only spoke one word. "It's time." Midnight squealed as she began planning on how to teach the kids about sexual education. Izuku walked, or limped home. He should consider himself lucky, but the constant fear of dying by the hands of Yaoyorozu wasn't leaving his head. He didn't even know who she dragged into the closet before he bolted out. He felt shame in knowing he got raped twice, but his pride as a man told him that wasn't what happened. Arriving home, he was greeted by Alpha kneeling in front of him. "Master, I have prepared a feast for you." Izuku immediately began eating. Alpha definitely knew how to cheer him up. Werewolf butlers rule. Thanks to Alpha's efforts, Izuku found the courage to go on patrol. Stopping a few muggings and taking down some drug dealers, Izuku felt it was a slow day compared to the usual guys in white suits that always pop up. Now he was back early in his workshop. Preparing to turn his eagle into a humanoid like a knight, let's just call it a knight. Making a clone of himself, Izuku felt himself losing some weight. His eagle urgently fused with the clone. Izuku was expecting a harpy-like knight, but it took similar appearance to the pro hero hawks. A bright green knight with a pair of Viridian feathered wings. Light blue highlight traced its body, while the head obviously resembled an eagle. "Master, please grant me a name," the new soldier spoke. "Tempest." Izumi was explaining to her mother what happened at the sports festival. About her brother and about her plans. They were both determined to apologize and make it up to Izuku. Hanami sat across her sister. "Natsu, why did you call me this time? Can't I spend some time with my sister?" Hanami just stared at her blankly. "Okay, I need to cash in that favor you owed me for making those identities for your kiddos." "What do you need?" "We need Lady Nagant." Hanami sighed as she subconsciously rubbed her elbow. "Fine. So you're the hotshot." Izuku was currently face to face with the number 8 hero Ryukyu, and the first thing on his mind was, she's shorter than what I expected.
Yes, ma'am, Izuku exclaimed.
Don't call me ma'am, makes me feel old. Ryukyu gestured him to follow her. They walked inside the rather extravagant building. Izuku wondered if her quirk influenced her desire for expensive things. The elevator looked very expensive too, it even had a mini chandelier. After leaving the elevator, they walked towards Ryukyu's office. Now then, tell me about yourself, Ryukyu said as she took a seat.
I'm single? Izuku immediately did a mental facepalm. Why would you say that, dumbass? You expect me to believe that?
Ryukyu deadpanned.
Izuku sighed in relief that she didn't get angry. Yes. Do you believe it yourself? Yes. I'm a sucker for romance drama Midoriya, so I'm curious.
This isn't what I expected to do during my internship, Izuku thought as Ryukyu seemed to interrogate him.
Well, I kinda like one of my classmates? The creation girl? How did you know? Nizu told me. Why?
Ask him, now go get changed. I still want more details later.
One of her sidekicks entered and took him to the room he'll be staying at. Izumi sighed as she, Kendo, and Yaoyorozu were preparing for a commercial.
Why do we have to this?
Izumi turned towards Yaoyorozu, who seemed to be teasing Kendo about something. Izuku Midoriya hero named Lancelot, Izuku announced as he stood in front of Ryukyu and her sidekicks. He looks cute. I could just eat him up. Look at all those muscles. Izuku blushed as her sidekicks seemed to ogle him. Thank you.
Let's go, Lancelot, Ryukyu gestured him to follow.
Wow. We're going on patrol. Izuku excitedly spoke.
Yes, now tell me the details.
About what? Izuku asked, confused. The creation girl. Izuku was beginning to question Ryukyu's professionalism.
She's very possessive.
Izuku flinched at the memories.
Did she rape you? Ryukyu suddenly asked with a serious expression.
What? No.
I'm actually attracted to her, it's just that, she's too forward, Izuku explained.
I see, it's still wrong, Midoriya. Can we not talk about this here? Izuku fidgeted with his gloves. Alright, but we need to talk about this later, kid.
How am I supposed to tell him that Mordred told me about his past when she was informed that the kid accepted her offer?
Nizu gave her Mordred's report about the kid's past.
The bullying, the death of his father, the lack of support from his remaining family, and every other shit the kid went through. Mordred left a note that the kid seemed most sensitive about his love life.
Something about being betrayed. Yaoyorozu, please stop, Itsuka begged as Yaoyorozu kept reminding her about what happened at the supply closet. I'm willing to share him if it's you, Yaoyorozu purred. Kill me now. Izuku was exhausted, not because of villain attacks, but because of people trying to talk to him or Ryukyu.
She had a lot of fans, and apparently so did Viridian. Now he was exhausted in Ryukyu's expensive couch.
Time to get back to the details. Ryukyu looked like she was a parent that was about to give the talk to her kid. Please no, Izuku begged.
No can do, kiddo, a sudden voice spoke up.
Izuku turned to see Hinami in a jumpsuit. Hinami? It's Lady Nagant when I'm wearing this shit. Lady Nagant? You mean the hero Lady Nagant? Izuku suddenly had stars in his eyes. Yeah.
But why are you dash? Tell us about you first and I'll explain everything about me after.
Izuku looked hesitant at first, but she trusts Hinami and Ryukyu was trustworthy, right? Okay. Izumi was gloomy after filming the commercial. Yaoyorozu was trying to find a positive in it, while Kendo just looked done.
The hero costume she was wearing was also changed by the staff. Instead of the vibrant green jumpsuit, it was now a skin-tight bodysuit and had a skirt instead of pants.
Time for the next. We're supposed to be heroes.
The three students muttered.
Let me get this straight, Ryukyu spoke. You got raped twice, but didn't report it?
I mean dash twice.
Hinami exclaimed. You didn't even report this Zenobia to Nizu. She infiltrated UA and raped a student. Ryukyu said. She was only after me, so I didn't, Izuku spoke. So what? It was still stupid to not tell anybody. Hinami chastised. I didn't have proof, and I didn't think anybody would care, Izuku explained, and by the looks he was getting, it wasn't the right thing to say. Why do you think nobody would care? Ryukyu knew the answer why he would think that, but still asked. Nobody cared about what happened to quirkless loser before, and I'm a guy. Nobody would take me seriously even if I did, they'll just think I'm seeking attention. Izuku was starting to cry at this point. Hinami placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder. We care, kiddo, we want to help you. Hinami sat beside him. What about Yayorozu? I actually like her, she was just too forward with it, Izuku said. We'll talk to her about it, okay? Hinami assured. Thank you. Don't thank us yet, kid, Ryukyu walked in front of him. We still need to fix you mentally. A week has passed and Izuku was really thankful to Hinami and Ryukyu. Hinami supported him, and Ryukyu helped build up his self-confidence and his self-preservation. He still needed to attend therapy at UA though. He also learned a lot during their patrols. Ryukyu would give him some useful tips to stop some villains and how to deal with fans. They rarely had any physical training, but Izuku didn't mind. They also told Nizu about Zenobia, and he was not happy about it all. Hungry? Ryukyu asked. A little, Izuku answered. Let's go get some steak. Ryukyu walked towards a steakhouse. Izuku realized that the steakhouse was the reason she even asked, nevertheless Izuku followed her. Ryukyu was already ordering when he got in, he ordered some katsudon for himself. Good thing they had it. After this we'll be heading back to the agency, Izuku nodded. You'll be learning something new. Izuku perked up. Really? What is it? Paperwork, Ryukyu smirked. Izuku groaned. Nijire was confused, Ryukyu was basically hiding something from her. She changed her patrol schedule and route, she rarely even saw Ryukyu this week. The other sidekicks weren't telling her either, pouting, she walked back to the agency. Ryukyu watched Midoriya do paperwork on the villains he caught. She entered her office and immediately dropped to her knees. She felt exhausted. Helping Midoriya wasn't a problem, keeping Nijire from finding out was the hard part. Ryukyu knew Nijire would overwhelm Midoriya with questions, and would definitely invade his personal space. And the kid was still trying to accept the fact that he was attractive, you'd think multiple people kissing him would prove that to him. Ryuko sighed as she walked towards her desk. Everything was still going smoothly though. Midoriya was getting better, there weren't any problems with the patrols. It was practically a slow week, I guess learning Viridian was in town would do that. Ryukyu relaxed on her chair, but then she heard it. Hey! Hey! You're the sports festival winner, right? What's your quirk? Is it true you're Viridian? Why are you here? Ryuko rushed out of her office and saw Nijire hovering over Midoriya, thankfully he wasn't panicking. He was still blushing though. She pulled Nijire away and dragged her into her office. Don't bother him too much, Nijire. But dash. No, he needs time to adjust. We barely managed to get him to open up, so don't bother him for now. Okay? Okay, can at least dash. No. In a bar in Kamino, a television opened and a voice spoke through. It's time. Yes, master, Kurogiri answered. Prepare the nomas. Shigaraki began to cackle as Kurogiri created multiple gates. Izuku and some sidekicks sat on Ryukyu's back as they fly towards Hosu. Ryukyu was called by an emergency transmission. When they arrived, they were greeted by a group of nomas destroying the city, and heroes trying to stop them. Izuku jumped down, while Ryukyu was looking for somewhere to land with her interns. Rushing towards two nomas, he activated all his enhancer quirks. When his fist landed on the Nomu, he was surprised to know it was weaker compared to the one from the USJ. Ryukyu held down two bulky nomas with dark skin, while her sidekicks and Nijire supported the other heroes. Izuku rushed at the Nomus with the intent of taking their quirks. Lancelot! Ryukyu called out. Izuku suddenly felt something wrapping around him. "You're mine." Izuku paled when he heard the voice. Zenobia! Izuku yelled. Ryukyu tried to help, but the Nomus she was holding down were struggling too much. She watched as Izuku was hurled towards a building, crashing through the wall. "No!" Ryukyu seemed. "Oh, be quiet," Zenobia said as she sent a torrent of blue flames towards the heroine. Ryukyu was forced to dodge, but the Nomus that she was holding down were burned to a crisp. A wall of flame blocked her path, preventing her from attacking Zenobia. She heard the sound lightning crackling. Ryukyu turned to the building Izuku was thrown at. Hinami was perched on top of a building on Hosu, shooting down Nomus running around the city. They were weak, but there was enough for a small army. She saw Ryukyu fighting in the distance, and woman in red dress was manipulating the flames around her. The woman barely dodged a lightning bolt from the sky before sprouting a pair of wings made of fire and flew away. Hinami was about to shoot her down when she confirmed that she was attacking Ryukyu, but a sudden earthquake stopped her. Taking aim again, she saw Izuku covered in green lightning, while his hair was practically standing up. She was surprised when he moved fast enough that she wasn't able to keep track of him. Smirking, she took aim at Nomus again. Ryukyu was surprised when her intern was suddenly moving as fast as All Might and taking down the Nomus easily. She ordered her sidekicks to prioritize evacuation while Izuku was taking care of the Nomus. It was unfortunate that Zenobia got away, but she still had things to take care of here. Ryukyu crushed a small Nomu that was trying to run away, while a green blur was taking down the big ones. She saw Endeavor arrive with his son and sidekicks. Ryukyu was cut short by Izuku stopping in front of her before collapsing. Ryukyu caught him before he fell to the ground. She reverted back to her human form and checked if he was fine. Thankfully, he just fainted from exhaustion. Endeavor. "Can you handle it here?" "Who do you think I am, woman?" Endeavor yelled back. The heroes were starting to clean up since most of the Nomus were taken down. Ryukyu was carrying Izuku to an ambulance when a black tendril wrapped around his body and pulled him away. "I'll be taking Lancelot." Everyone turned to see a white-haired man standing on a rooftop. "Give him back!" Ryukyu roared, shifting to her dragon form. She charged. How pathetic! Percival engulfed in black smoke. Ryukyu charged through the smoke. She flapped her wings to clear the smoke, but they were already gone. Momo was watching the news from Iwabumi's agency. She, along with Kendo and the female Midoriya, watched as Hosu was attacked. As the television announced the aftermath, all three of them listened closely. Heroes have finally taken down the monstrous group that attacked Hosu. The amount of casualties are still unknown, while a hero in training has been abducted. The screen showed a picture of Izuku with blue hair. Itsuka and Izumi would never forget the scream Yaozu made that night. Izuku woke up strapped to a chair. He tried to use his quirks to break out, but he couldn't activate them. He looked around for something he could use, but white walls and one white door was all he could see. Finally awake, "I see," Izuku heard a voice behind him. "Who are you?" Izuku yelled out. "Not important, I just need to call the boss." Izuku heard a click, then a portal appeared in front of him. Percival walked through the portal. "Well, how nice to finally get the chance to talk to you, Lancelot. Who are you? Forgot me already? How depressing. Cry me a river," Izuku snarked. "It would seem you still don't know your situation." Izuku was promptly electrocuted. If it wasn't for his familiarity with electric quirks, he would have probably died from the amount of voltage. Izuku just gritted his teeth, preventing himself from screaming out in pain. A week has passed and currently, the UA teachers are trying everything they can to find their student. Former vigilante or not, he was still a teenager under their care. Nizu is currently working with the police to identify any possible hideout the villains could depending on their activities, while the teachers were expanding their usual patrol routes. Other heroes were also notified to keep an eye out for Percival. Ryukyu was trying even harder, since she's blaming herself for what happened. "Hey Dragon Lady!" Ryukyu turned to see the rabbit hero Mirko. "What is it, Rumi?"
You look awful, Mirko commented. May in turn just got kidnapped while I was carrying him. I definitely feel awful. Ryukyu yelled. She stomped away from the rabbit hero. Izuku sat silently on the floor of his cell. He could still feel his quirks, but couldn't activate it. He heard some shuffling outside, and immediately prepared for a fight. Hello, Izuku heard a weak feminine voice. He saw a little girl with red hair wearing a dirty gray dress. Hello, who are you? Izuku asked the little girl. Aya, the little girl weakly answered. What are you doing here? Izuku asked from behind the bars. Because my quirk turns of others, Izuku realized that the girl was reason he couldn't activate his quirks. Why did you come here? The fishman guarding me fell asleep. I want to go home. The little started to tear up. Okay, then can you turn off your quirk? Izuku asked hopefully so he can help her. The little girl shook her head. Then they heard a yell from down the hall. A man with shark mutation showed up, and grabbed the little girl by her hair. You little brat trying to escape. The little girl started crying as the villain pulled on her hair. Izuku saw red as volcanic veins spread from his body and green lightning covered him. Leave her alone. Percival felt the building shake. He checked security cameras and found the source. Lancelot shrouded in green lightning. Then an alarm rang. When he checked, he found the source at the entrance of the building. A jet-black werewolf covered in armor and one with eagle-like features covered in green armor. How interesting. ᴅᴜᴜ was having a hard time. A goddamn werewolf just broke inside the building, and tearing through the henchmen with ease. Release my master, the werewolf howled. ᴅᴜᴜ fired a tornado at the werewolf, sending through the wall. It quickly recovered, so ᴅᴜᴜ shot multiple bolts of lightning at it. The werewolf tanked all the bolts and kept charging, claws at the ready. ᴅᴜᴜ slammed her hands on the ground, creating massive spikes that pierced through the werewolf. ᴅᴜᴜ seemed content and was about to walk, but then a ear-shattering howl sent her flying. Catching herself with her wind, she turned back to the werewolf. What she saw made her thought of running for her life. The werewolf was covered in blood-red lightning, the highlights on its body glowing like magma. Its glowing red eyes glared at her. Then it howled. Bring me my master, the werewolf charged. ᴅᴜᴜ barely dodged, but the wall behind her was sliced like butter. Then a burst of energy exploded from the werewolf, blowing her away. The goons that tried to help her got shot through several walls. For the first time, ᴅᴜᴜ was afraid. Percival stood at the roof of his building. A figure dropped down behind him. Release my master and I will spare you. Percival was cut off by blades of wind aimed for his head. The avian rushed at him, talons aimed for his chest. Percival erupted in black and white lightning before dodging every attack that came his way. His right hand got covered in black energy, then he delivered a right hook to the avian's head. The avian was blown off the roof of the building. Percival walked to the edge of the building, looking down the edge. Suddenly he was shot with a tornado composed out of blades of wind. He easily avoided the blunt of the attack, but the roof was destroyed. He sensed an attack behind him. He blocked a sword that resembled a feather. Release my master. Energy exploded from the avian. Percival was blown a few meters into the air, but caught himself with float. He got a good look of the avian. It was covered in vibrant green lightning, and the highlights of its body shined with energy flowing through it like river. Then the avian vanished. Percival sensed another attack from above. He saw the avian with sphere in its hands that seemed to resemble compressed air, then it was shot at him. Pumping 100% of his quirk, he prepared the high-speed projectile. To his surprise, the projectile expanded, trapping him in a circular cage of wind blades. He felt multiple blades of wind trying to stab through his skin, only being held back by the enhanced durability of his enhancer quirk. ᴅᴜᴜ kept evading attacks from the werewolf, but she made the mistake of looking into its eyes. She felt her body get paralyzed. The werewolf loomed over her. Blood sacrifice. The werewolf's hand turned blood red. The purple claws glowed red.
Then the only thing she saw was red. ᴬᴇ received a call that a building in Tokyo was currently under attack, then they found it was Percival's hideout. The majority of the heroes in Tokyo was sent for the raid, since Percival was officially recognized as an S-rank villain. All Might and Endeavor was included in the raid. If the first responders weren't attacked by people in white suits when they tried to come near the building, they wouldn't have found out that it was Percival's base. The new reports that 2 people with animal mutations also broke into the building changed some of the plan, cause either heroes will have allies or more enemies. Aizawa, Midnight, and Ectoplasm were heading to raid site. They received a call from ᴬᴇ, informing them that they found Percival. The other teachers wanted to join the raid, but Nizu stopped them. All Might was sent there ahead of time too. On their way there, they received another call, notifying them that 2 unidentified people were decimating the building, clearly an enemy of Percival. What's concerning is the report on how powerful they were. A black werewolf shrouded in blood-red lightning that was tearing down the lower floors, while vibrant green avian was wreaking havoc in the upper floors. Both had animal mutations but clearly had multiple other abilities. If Aizawa wasn't told about Viridian's real quirk, he wouldn't see any connections. Viridian was never alone. Izuku rampaged through the middle floors, carrying one scared little girl in left hand and black tendrils covered in teal lightning coming out his right hand. All the henchmen that tried to stop him was easily sent flying through the walls of the hallway, for once in Izuku's life. He didn't care if they lived. Percival dodged another slash from the avian. The shockwave of each attack chipped away at his reinforced suit. Percival was sure this thing was aiming to kill him, making him put together that the attackers weren't heroes. "Who are you mongrels?" Percival yelled. "I am Tempest, the second knight of my king." Tempest announced before the lightning surrounding him grew more violent and the energy coursing through him to grow stronger. Wrath of the heavens. A pillar energy shot down from the sky, completely encompassing Percival. The attack that was aimed to smite Percival lit the whole area surrounding the building, while also destroying multiple floors of the building. ᴬᴇ received another report, and this one made him more concerned. A pillar of light struck the building, destroying at least 4 floors down including the rooftop. Then a massive explosion from the ground floor ate away another 3 floors. It's a miracle that the only building caught in the attack was Percival's. ᴬᴇ could only hope that whoever was attacking wouldn't attack them too. The building was barely standing when Aizawa arrived. He could see someone fighting in the sky, the avian being one of them. He also noted a large number of heroes in the area, either evacuating the citizens or maintaining a perimeter. A loud explosion and person getting blasted through a wall gained everyone's attentions. An unconscious woman wearing a ruined white suit lay on the ground. Then a black werewolf walked out the hole in the wall, the blood-red lightning crackling violently on its body. None of the heroes dared to move as the werewolf's legs got shrouded in a blood-red energy before jumping, then using its claws to scale the building. Aizawa thought he had seen everything, but his problem child just had to prove him wrong. Said problem child burst through the midsection of the building and landed on the road. He was carrying a child while he was glowing, with tendrils coming out of his back. The problem child placed the child in front of Midnight then jumped away, following where the werewolf went. All Might watched as 2 people with animal-like features fought a worn-out Percival. The man's clothes had definitely seen better days. The avian fought him in the air, while the werewolf would take any chance to attack whenever Percival gets too close. All Might was about to intervene when his student beat him to it. Viridian delivered an axe kick to Percival's back that shot him down through several floors. The 2 others following with their own attacks soon after. The avian shot blast of compressed air, while the werewolf aimed a slash with its blood-red claws. Enough! All Might heard Percival roar. Then he saw something that made him step back. An enormous amount of energy exploded out of Percival, covering the surrounding with smoke. When the smoke cleared, Izuku and his knights finally saw Percival's form. A silver armor covered his body as a gray smoke-like mane came out of his helm, shining white highlight covered his body, making him look a classic knight in shining armor portrayed in stories. "This ends now," Percival's voice echoed through his armor. A white sword materialized in his hand before he rushed towards Izuku.
Alpha tried to intercept the attack, but the sword phased through his claws and slashed through his chest.
Alpha was forced to dematerialize and return to Izuku.
Momo, Itsuka, and Izumi were in Iwabumi's car heading towards Percival's hideout.
Momo would have ditched her internship if Iwabumi wasn't called in for backup.
As they drove to the site, the radio was updating them on what was happening.
From the two people that arrived first and started destroying the building.
The most recent update was that the other heroes arrived alongside All Might, but the two that arrived first was still fighting Percival.
At that point Momo became even more anxious since she didn't know if they were enemies.
Ever since she told her mother about Ieyaman or apparently Izuku Midoriya, her mother thought her to claim a man and make him hers. And that involved making sure they stayed hers. Now someone was threatening to take him away from her.
Izuku dodged all of Percival's attacks, barely.
Each slash of Percival's sword created shockwaves that drove back any heroes that tried to intervene.
Even All Might got blown back at some point. Fortunately for Izuku, he was fast enough to avoid any attacks.
Tempest tried to support him, but it wasn't helping much.
Izuku pulled some random hero away from some falling debris.
Honestly, they were just making it harder for him to fight.
Useless heroes trying to gain fame. Luminous divide.
Izuku heard Percival announce, and barely dodged the laser that ripped through the building. Taking a look at the devastation caused by the laser, Izuku found the building barely standing. It was a miracle at this point. A lot of the heroes and police in the area were running away, just so they can save themselves.
Aizawa took cover as the laser sliced half the building.
All the heroes were basically useless at this point. He couldn't even erase whatever Percival had.
Suddenly the person with avian features that attacked first crashed a few meters away from Aizawa.
Then Percival crashed on top of the avian, his sword impaling the avian on the chest.
Aizawa watched as the avian dematerialized into a vibrant green mist. Aizawa's eyes glowed red, but it was proven ineffective.
Percival was about to lunge towards him, when the problem child dropped down on Percival. Percival was pinned down by the problem child who was slowly getting covered in a similar armor, only his was green.
"Unhand me!"
Percival roared as a pillar of light erupted on his body, blowing the child away from him. Everyone watched as a pillar of light illuminated the whole area. Everyone running away stopped, stunned by the sudden light show. All Might noticed that Percival was in the center of the pillar, and was actually getting brighter.
He immediately figured out what was going to happen.
"Everyone get back, he plans of self-destructing." All Might shouted to inform everyone. Such lowly peasants dared to touch him. Such inferior beings dared to interfere with his plans. Such useless mongrels dared to stop him.
"Prepare for your demise." Percival roared as he gathered energy to detonate. Percival's body shined brighter every second that was passing.
As he slowly reached his limit, he felt something or someone wrap around him,
encasing his body in green energy. "No! Release me, Lancelot!"
Percival struggled from Lancelot's hold. He could feel the energy he built up reach its limit. In a few seconds he was about to blow. He felt Lancelot push him upward into the sky, keeping him away from the grounded heroes. Percival could hear muffled screams, but the moment he reached his limits it all went blank. Aizawa yelled at the top of his lungs when he saw his problem child take to the skies and drag Percival with him. Aizawa wasn't an idiot, so he knew what his problem child was planning. Heroes sacrificed themselves every day, but his problem child wasn't a hero yet.
No.
He was a hero, just not a licensed one. All Might tried to go after them, but he was swatted away by Green Tendril.
Aizawa heard tires screeching as Iwabumi and 3 students arrived.
Whom started calling the problem child as well, but it was clear that he's resolved himself.
Momo felt powerless.
The last thing they heard from the radio was that Percival was planning on self-destructing. But when they arrived, they found Viridian dragging Percival up to the sky.
Everyone what that meant.
He was planning to sacrifice himself.
Izumi cried and called for his brother.
Seeing him race to the sky filled her with dread.
She hasn't redeemed herself yet.
She wanted to say sorry again. She wanted him back in her life. And now he was going to make impossible. Izumi tried to activate her quirk to follow them, but she couldn't feel it. She saw the glowing red eyes of her teacher stopping her from doing anything. She saw All Might holding down a crying Ryukyu from following. The heroine's roar made it clear she wanted to be in her brother's place instead of him. Then they heard it. The explosion and the shockwave that hit them right after. "Hey kiddo," Izuku heard someone spoke. Izuku slowly opened his eyes to see his father. Izuku tried to speak, but his mouth was covered black smoke. "Don't bother, tell your mom and sister that I love all of you." His father's hand grabbed his shoulder. "I'm proud of you, son." Izuku felt himself getting pushed. Everyone took cover as the shockwave from the explosion slams into them. If the explosion exploded from where Percival intended to, then the damage could have been catastrophic. Aizawa stared at the sky as if hoping for a miracle. And as if to answer his prayer, he caught a glimpse of something falling from the sky. He saw All Might leap into air, catching it or him. Landing a few meters away, Aizawa ran towards the symbol of peace. All Might placed the problem child on a stretcher, half naked with tattered clothes. A support hero checking over him. Suddenly the problem child started coughing, and slowly opened one eye. "Hi Aizawa-sensei. You're in a lot of trouble, problem child. Hee, can I have katsudon while you scold me?" Everyone nearby started chuckling. "Sure, problem child.